It's time. It's about that time. The time has come, and when the time comes, that's just how it is. All right. Let's do this. You know the deal. You know the deal unless it's your first time here. But actually, no one's here right now. It's just me. I have to go to my own page to get my own link to my own show because we have outsourced the production. The socialists, Marxists in the audience will be enraged that I don't even own the means of disseminating my own show. But that's life. That's life in the fallen world, you know. Talk about it every week. But it could be worse. Okay, so I'm pasting the link to the show. I already wrote the tweet. In case it's your first time here, this happens every time. I have to get the link and post it to Twitter, which I'm doing right now. But once I do that, we're good to go. We are good to go. Boom. Not even going to proofread it. It's been a day of typos, but you know what? I roll with that also. I roll with the punches. It's just my style. What's up? Bia 0000. 3 zeros. You are the first one here. Maybe it'll just be me and you. I'm cool with that, actually. Alright, I'm arranging the windows. I'm going to move some paints around. Then we're going to get it going. If you're watching not live later, you probably want to jump forward to the intro. I never put the timestamp in the description because I'm a busy guy. It doesn't happen. It might happen this week, but I'm going to keep it real with you. It might not. It might never happen again, honestly. But we'll see. What's up? Isidore is here. Everyone's here. We have Bia 000 and Isidore. Lock it in. Lock the doors. That's everybody we need. How's it going with you guys? It's going pretty well over here. Things have been crazy. I had a huge work week. I'm wrapping up some commissions. They're not the last commissions. Of course, it's never the full-on last commissions. Put my paint box up here, but look how disorganized I am. Look at this. I have painting teachers that would reach through the fabric of time and slap me. But they're not here. But yeah, I'm wrapping up some commissions. I'm trying to do one at a time, which gives me a little bit more time to focus on other things. So it's going well. If you've been watching the show for a long time, you know the deal. I pretty much always... It's a cycle. The show, not the show, but the studio. This is a pre-show. Talk about the studio for a second before I pull the trigger. Has a cycle where I start too many projects, and then I finally dig myself out from underneath all the projects, and I say, no more. One at a time for the projects. And then it happens again. And then all of a sudden it's been a month and I'm like, damn, I'm cooking 7 meals right now at once. And I could have cooked 1, but I'm cooking 7 and it's taking 7 times as long, but it's all good. The commissions, I got to bump them to the front of the line, obviously, because people's lives are enmeshed in them. But for the personal projects, I got a few things cooking. I got 2 comics going on. That's what I was... working on today. I sent this thing off for this wedding. Not my wedding, obviously, but someone else's wedding. And then I was working on this comic. I got 2 comics going on right now. And they're looking pretty sick, honestly. I think they're both together like 20 pages. It's crazy. One's 12 pages. That's the one I was working on today. I made a pretty huge dent in it, though. I'm probably over halfway done, actually. And then the other one is more of like a story, and that one's at least like 8 pages, so... Pretty stoked about that. I got the next batch of rosary prints framed up here. They're looking really sick. I'm going to print more of the cryptid prints up pretty soon. That's the tail, man. That's the tail over here. I got the next batch of graphics cooking. And that's my story. It's going really well. I'm working on moving, but we talked about that last week. I don't like to make the show too much about me. It's really about the art. It's about the creative, spiritual life. In that domain, has anything new been happening to me? We're going to talk about some stuff before we get going. This will be a very experimental episode. I'm kind of leaning into the experimenting. I hope it's been cool for you guys. You know, I always say this, but I guess I always say it to myself, but I'm like, I could know exactly what's going to happen and then do a pretty good job every time, but I think it's more fun if I kind of roll the dice. We haven't had one. I really shouldn't say this right now because I feel like I'm going to roll the dice the most on this episode. Like, I don't actually know how it's going to go. I was going to say, we haven't had one that turned out, like, poorly yet. I guess that's lucky, but when that happens, maybe we'll, readjust. But we haven't had one where I wrapped up and I was like, wow, this really was a mistake. That never has happened yet, so we'll see. What time is it? 7:02? I'm going to pull the trigger in like 2 minutes. Let's see, what do I have laying around here I can talk to you guys about? I could show you guys the studio prints, but I posted them on Patreon. I'm never sure how much I should like overlap that stuff. I have this sick, it's really insane, honestly. I mean, not, you're an artist, you think your own stuff is good. Maybe other people don't think it's good, but I think my own stuff is good. So, I'm very humble about it, but like if I'm talking to myself or to some friends, I feel like you're my friends. I got this picture of an angel that is nuts. It's really good. When I did it, it was one of those moments. I probably had like 5 or 6 of these moments over the whole time running the studio here where I did it. And right when I finished it, I thought, bam, I just punctured to the next level. I just punctured over to the next level, so that's cool. Got some dog spiritual imagery going on. That should be pretty cool. Normally I have some kind of anecdote, but I don't really. I've been cooped up. I went to the lake the other day. That was pretty cool, and I went for a pretty long walk with my dog around the lake. I've really been trying to draw more inspiration from nature for colors and things like that. I'm very integrated with the seasons in terms of my aesthetic, and right now is an interesting time for that because it's spring going into summer. At least here, that's what it feels like. So I've really been leaning into the greens. Green is really the color for this time of year. It's funny as an artist. Let's talk about this, and then we'll just pull the trigger on the show. But whenever we go through winter, except for the really, really, really deep greens that are like almost black, like a really deep Christmas tree color, winter's really no green, and then we go into like the death part of winter, the really dark part of winter. And there's some time in spring, get the pastel colors. But once summer starts peeking over the horizon, I get like green fever. I want to start using green all the time. Green backgrounds, I'm dropping green and everything. So it's kind of funny. Like you get these cycles that go on once you observe your own artistic practice over and over and over again as the years stack up as they do. But it's time. It's 7:04. I'm excited. Are you excited? I feel pretty good about it. Let's do it! All right. What's up, everybody? The intro says season 2. It's season 3. I never changed it. I'm not really a video guy. I really am a painter, so I don't really do the moving pictures thing too much. Intro music. The band's called Painted Worlds, painting show, Painted Worlds. Check it out on Bandcamp and Spotify. How's it going? How are you doing? This evening, it feels like afternoon, but it's definitely evening over here. And I just want to jump right in. I want to jump right into what we're doing right now. What I'm thinking for this evening painting situation is, I guess I got a little bit of a monologue. I didn't write it out, I didn't prep it, but I like to, before we jump in, let you know where my mind's at, just because part of the show is the meta-creative element. And what's in your head, the sort of general picture in your head always affects the play out of the picture that you're making, especially if it's not meticulously planned, which it's not. We do it live, as you know. So I had a pretty interesting last week in terms of like symbols, themes, archetypal imagery, and things like that. I'm kind of giving away the whole second comic. I was thinking, should I say this or not? Because what I'm about to tell you is basically what the second comic is in its entirety. But I thought, people that watch this show, they're into my stuff. So, I never really had much success running the studio and the whole internet presence because with keeping things sort of off the record. My brain is really hooked up to my whole internet presence. And anytime which I enjoy, and anytime I've had some situation where I'm reading something or I poke into a new area, and if I ever think, I'm going to go a little further into this and sort of, keep this in the secret closet, and later I'll tell people, later I'll show people and stuff. It never really works out because I do that, and then I move on to something else, and then the thoughts and stuff, they just kind of just stay in that closet. I put them in. I did that with the Egyptian stuff over winter break, and later I was like, I should have just posted and done the things I wanted to do about it. So anyway, I'm basically giving away what the second comic is, but if you're here, you like hanging out, I'm sure you're still going to enjoy it. But point is that I had a pretty interesting week in terms of symbolism, archetypes, imagery, and things like that, because a friend of mine invited me to go see Godzilla versus King Kong, which normally I would never do. I'm pretty antithetical to movies. I think it has something to do with my obsession with images. The movie is moving images. It just makes my little brain sort of short circuit. And I always feel like movies are trying to emotionally manipulate me. I realize, I really don't like that, feeling emotions. But I really enjoyed the movie a lot, probably because its veneer of, hey, it's literally a giant monkey fighting a giant lizard allowed me to not feel too emotionally manipulated. So I really enjoyed it a lot. I came home, I watched the first Godzilla movie also in my downtime, which is very rare. And I was really thinking about it because it's such an interesting little node of imagery and symbolism. This monster, this creature, that comes out of the darkness to just destroy. And I was thinking about it because I was like, this really isn't like an arbitrary thing. Where does this come from? What's the genesis of this? What's the deal with this? And someone in my Twitter comments posted, when I mentioned going to see the movie, Godzilla is Leviathan and King Kong is the behemoth, I don't know if they were joking or not. But I thought, that's really interesting. And I thought, the monster thing does tie back into these pre-Christian religions, and in Christianity I was like, there is the Leviathan in scripture. That's really interesting, and I hadn't really thought about that too much. And I was surprised that we kind of didn't go over it on the show ever, because we did that whole almost year of the visions and dreams and things from scripture. So I was thinking about the Leviathan, and I think that's what we're going to hit right now. I really don't know how it's going to come out because the monster situation is always interesting in painting. We'll talk about that in a second. But what I came up with for Godzilla when I was thinking about it was interesting because, and this is what the comic's about, so like I said, I'm giving it away. But it's fine, we're all friends here. I left the theater and I thought I would be thinking, here, what does Godzilla represent? What does it represent? Is it like the nuclear bomb or whatever? But that's not really what happened. What I was really struck by in the first Godzilla movie that I watched is there's this character named Sarizawa, and he's like the scientist guy. And it's really interesting because the crux of his issue in the movie is that, there is a point to this by the way, is that he invented this weapon that's this new super unleashable. I'm giving away the movie, so if you're going to go watch the first Godzilla movie, just mute your phone or computer for a minute or two. He invents this I'm not really giving away the ending, this is just the plot. He invents this sort of killing machine, sort of like an A-bomb that goes underwater and kills stuff underwater basically. And in principle, he doesn't want to unleash it, because he's like, this is another atom bomb. If we use this to kill Godzilla, this weapon I invented, it'll be unleashed on people and it'll kill a ton of people. This is super wrong. We shouldn't do it. And he has to weigh if he should do it or not. That's his internal issue in the movie. He doesn't want to unleash this weapon. It goes against his principles, but this particular situation seems like maybe he should do it. And it's interesting because, if you've been following along with me, I sort of jump around between topics, obviously. Sometimes I feel guided between them in a way. The last few weeks I've been going over all this Civil War and 1800s stuff. And the most interesting character that popped out in that is this guy named John Brown. Maybe some people know, but John Brown is basically this guy who, when it was contested if Kansas would enter the Union as a slave state or a free state, he was a hyper anti-slavery guy. He rolled down to Kansas and just killed a bunch of people. He took these 5 guys. They literally dragged him out of this cabin that they lived in and butchered them just straight up. On their lawns. He dragged this guy out, 2 sons, and killed him with a sword, on his own lawn, and went to some other guy's cabin, so he murdered these 5 guys. And it was an act of, anti-slavery action, you could say. And it's interesting because I was thinking about that, and it made me think a lot about, I think I brought it up on the stream once, made me think a lot about the law and when we're like allowed to go outside of the law and stuff. And I used to work in this place where there was this image of John Brown hanging on the wall, actually, oddly enough, and people would ask about it. And whenever it came up, people always had this really cool, they were like, oh, that's really cool, if you tell them, oh, he's this guy who wants to go kill these slaveholders, People are like, wow, that's really cool, nice. That's kind of the general reaction people have. But if you think about it, I mean, I'm not saying that's like right or wrong either way. It doesn't really matter what I think. But that's like straight up what terrorism is, going to kill civilians for a political reason, And in the really weirdest way, I felt like it almost tied into what Godzilla functioned as in the first movie, because as I've gone deeper and deeper into morality and these moral situations, I feel like that type of situation is almost what characterizes modern morality. It's like we tell ourselves that we have these principles, but then what we do once we build a little house of principles, like, yeah, we would never kill like civilians, like, yeah, we don't do terrorism, like we would never unleash these like killing weapons and stuff. Then we take one situation and what we kind of do is like cordon it off and say, oh, but this situation is unique. This situation is so bad and so different than what's normal that we are gonna be forced to do something that actually goes against our principles. But it doesn't actually mean anything about us. It's just because this particular situation is so out of the ordinary and so extreme that when we do this thing we would never normally do, it's actually not bad because this situation is different. And I feel like if you go through any sort of moral quandary or just morality in history or things like that, it's almost like what characterizes it. And it gives me the weirdest feeling because it makes me think, so what? Like, so we all just say we have these like morals and principles, but then when a particular situation comes along, we're like, oh, actually, but I'm totally going to do this thing that I said I wouldn't do. I'm going to totally go against them now because of the situation. And in a weird way, I felt like that was the situation the guy was put in the Godzilla movie. And that's almost what in the first Godzilla, that's almost what Godzilla kind of functioned as for me when I watched it the first time. It's like he's this monster. And by virtue of being so out of the ordinary, it puts people in that situation. It's like, well, here it is. Here's that moral situation where now this is certainly one of those times where it's not ordinary time. So now what are you going to do? Now what are your principles? Here's this scientist who says, well, I would never release this killing machine onto the world. But now it's like, well, now there's this literal monster outside. So do you actually feel that way? Or is it just something that you said, And I was just thinking about that, and I don't know, it made me think about the monster thing in a different way. It's almost like maybe that's the function of these monsters in these like stories where they interact with people, because it almost forces you into this situation where it's like, okay, but now who are you really? Now there's like a giant laser-eyed octopus like destroying the city, so like now we're going to see who you really are. And that was an interesting aspect of it. I really didn't expect it all. It came like really out of left field for me, but I don't know, it made me think about the monster thing in like a totally different way, and like I said, it kind of oddly related to that story about the Civil War I just told. I don't know what you guys think of that, but it's interesting because the whole spirituality thing is inherently enmeshed with morality for me, and it gives me this weird feeling to think that, like, like I said, we say we have these morals and principles, but then, oh, well, those guys, like, well, yeah, we're going to, like, straight up drag them out on the lawn and butcher them with swords because this is, like, totally different, I'm not even saying that was wrong or bad or whatever, but it's just interesting to think about. So anyway, that was a little intro. So that was on my mind for like the last few days. So it's basically what I've been thinking about over here. And I feel like that kind of atypical situation illuminating who you really are is becoming an interesting part of the monster archetype for me, I haven't watched very many monster things, or is that present in mythology for monsters and stuff? I don't know. Maybe a little bit. Epic of Gilgamesh, they fight some pretty bad creatures and stuff, but is there an aspect of that in there? I don't know. I'd have to go read it again. So anyway, all that is to say that I thought we'd dive a little bit into, no pun intended with the diving, into the leviathan thing, because that's a scriptural monster. And I poked into it a little bit in terms of studies and stuff like that. I kind of want to just get painting, so I think what we'll do is another time we'll go really hard on the scriptural stuff. Sometimes if I poke in there, it's been like a half an hour and we haven't laid any paint down. No one's trying to do that right now. But I did look into it a little bit, and I was expecting, we're going to start painting in like 1 second. I guess this is kind of a long intro, but hopefully you find it at least mildly interesting. I poked into the scriptural stuff about it, and what I was expecting, maybe naively, one time we hit this about the dragons on the show. Da Vinci has piece of writing. It's very short, where he explicates exactly how to make a dragon. And it's literally take the head of a dog, add the neck of a turtle, add the side part of the head as a rooster, add the horns of this animal and the legs of this animal and one other thing, and then boom, that's your dragon. It's very convenient for an artist. And I guess when I poked into the scriptural stuff, I was hoping for some sort of explanation like that. I was hoping it would say, the Leviathan, well, this is exactly what the Leviathan looks like very specifically. And I didn't really find that. Maybe it exists, but I didn't really find that at first. So what I was thinking was that this week, maybe we'll just kind of go for it. We'll just kind of paint up what I was thinking of it and what I got from it. And then we'll go in and see what the specific scriptural references are another time. But I just kind of wanted to dive into the monstery archetype thing because it's so present in pre-Christian religions. It's present in scripture. It's all over scripture if you include dragons in there. So I thought that's what we just casually jump into right now. I'm just getting the paint off this brush. That's why I'm moving my hand back and forth. And it's a little bit of a risk, honestly. I'm taking a risk with you all right now because the painting monstery thing is kind of difficult, actually. If you look at like medieval illuminated manuscript monsters and things like that, even the dragons especially, we did a little bit of dragon stuff last year, they often look a little doofy. I mean, not to use that word, it's really the only word that fits though. They often look a little, I don't want to say cartoony because that's not in and of itself bad, but they often look a little goofy. They often look a little almost like Pokemon, really, even. It's pretty rare to see in medieval Western painting a really well-painted monster that doesn't look humorous at all. You know what I mean? It's pretty rare. I'm racking through my brain right now. I feel like I can think of maybe like 4 to 10 off the cuff, but a lot of them look pretty weird and goofy. So we're going to try and not land in that space. That is the goal. It might come out kind of bad, honestly, but I thought we'd just take a risk. You know, why not take a risk together like we do in life? Just go for it. But first things first, I'm going to lay down a little bit of color, obviously, and I'm trying to stick to the CMYK paints. I have the other paints back here. If you've been following along the arc of the last 4 or 5 episodes, we've been trying to push the color mixing thing into the CMYK zone just to keep it fresh. But I also have the other colors behind me just because I want to give myself the highest chance of success. And I wanted to start with the background because one of the main things that came up when I was looking into the Leviathan that I thought was really cool was this aspect of the deep. It's like the deep, and it uses this phraseology, you know, the deep of the ocean, the deep, dark part of the ocean, so much. And so I wanted to kick in a little bit of darkness, honestly, down below. It's such an interesting image almost, you know, you're in the Old Testament way in there. And it's talking about the deep, like the unknown, dark part of the ocean. Something about that little Jordan Peterson aspect with like this primal realm of chaos and stuff like that. So I'm just going to see how dark this is. And we're still on the cardboard. Likewise, with the CMYK paints, just because it's a little bit different. It's a little different. And what I'm going to try and do right now, honestly, is I think maybe we can circumvent a little bit of that potentially maybe medieval weird energy that their creatures sometimes have by utilizing the texture. So I'm going to somewhat intentionally just try and kick in a lot of texture. Ideally, I think we'll do a few layers of painting, but we'll see. I'm just kind of going to go for it, honestly, and see what happens. Someone said Leviathan makes me think of a sea dragon. Yeah, it kind of does. It's a little dragony. I think in some of the text, though, it doesn't really describe it as a dragon, more like a sea serpent. But I think there's actually conflicting definitions in there. One of the weirdest things, I guess we'll start out with something I know from my past studies. The Book of Enoch figures into a few things I'm interested in for a variety of reasons. In case people don't know, it's not a biblical text, but it is referenced in the Bible. So I don't know what you would call that, like quasi-biblical, not in the Bible, not necessarily endorsed by the Bible, but also not totally out of left field. Yeah, this dark blue color that the CMYK paints get you is so solid. And on the cardboard, it's just, this is like the perfect dark ocean color. I was hoping to get exactly this color, where it almost reads to your eye as like black, but it's definitely blue. It's exactly what we wanted. Anyway, so in the book of Enoch, it has a really weird aspect of the Leviathan theme. I guess we should have started with like the 101, but we didn't. Sorry. But it mentions people eating the Leviathan. Isn't that weird? And the Leviathan is almost presented like this creature God made for like the righteous to eventually consume. And I thought that was just the most profoundly strange imagery. It's pretty rare working along painting-wise, art-wise. Sometimes you hit a node of imagery. I'm just adjusting the lights right here. Perfect. Sometimes you hit a node of imagery where it's just so strange, like I said. And that was really one that stuck out to me. I was like, eating the Leviathan. Left to my own devices, I'm not sure I would think of that in like a million years. And I'm pretty sure it talks directly about the righteous, possibly after, you know, the apocalypse or something, consuming the Leviathan. Definitely got to do something with that eventually. We could paint up a guy like just eating a sea serpent or something. That would be so sick. Just adjusting the lights a little bit. Cool. There we go. That's exactly how I wanted it. And I'm going to dry this up a little bit. Cool. Just made this kind of like dark zone down here. Perfect. Cool. Forgive me for any technical stuff. I've been closing on a house to move. It's been crazy. I think I tricked the bank or something because like I don't make that much money, but I'm gonna move into this house, so let's see how that goes. Anyway, though, so we got this zone down here, and how we're gonna do the monster itself is really the big question. I haven't looked at the chat yet, but I will in a second. I just want to get us going here. But how we want to do the monster itself is really the big question, obviously. I mean, we could have it like snaking all the way down. I almost want to make it, you know, scale is something we don't really talk about much on the show. Scale being how big things are in the picture and what the relationship is of the picture plane to the things that you're drawing and how big they are and how small they are. You know, if you're drawing an apple on a table, the apple could be like huge, like as big as my hand, or it could be a tiny apple on the table in the room. That's what scale is. Most people probably know that, obviously. But for us right now, it's an interesting question because part of me wants to put it in like, you know, maybe its head is like this big. This probably would be looking up, I guess, actually. And then we can get it coming down. I almost don't want to make it too large. I think if we control it and keep it tight, that'll let us kind of work up the texture and things like that. That's my first instinct, so I think that's how we're going to do it. I guess we're going to lay down some darker colors. I guess the color of it is also the other thing. I have two inclinations about that. I was thinking about it before, but I thought we'd kind of talk about it live. Part of me wants to start with like a really bright, not bright, but a chalky green. Almost like a chalky, I don't want to use the word pastel, but like a chalky, cool green. And then we can fade down into a darker situation. Since we want to keep it visually interesting, I think that is what we're going to do, actually. And the perfect pigment that we're going to use is Viridian. Viridian's the cool green from the actual palette over here. And yeah, I saw someone mention it. That was another thing I wanted to mention in the chat. But the Leviathan, there's the Leviathan and there's the Behemoth, right? Those are both in Scripture. But there's a third one. I guess it's just in like other Hebrew writings. I'm like 99% sure it's not actually in Scripture. But they have a third animal like that. It's called the Ziz. And it's the one for the air. So the Leviathan is in the ocean. The Behemoth is on land. And then the Ziz. It's a really funny name. It's Z-Y-Z. Z-Y-Z-Z, I think is usually how I see it written. And it's the air creature. So let's see. Some color like this almost would be solid. But we want to make it a little bit darker. Yeah, maybe something like this even, actually. Perfect. Let's just go for it in here. Yeah, perfect. So it's pretty light, but it'll dry a little bit darker, and I think we'll just make it work. We'll give it sort of like an aquatic shaped head. Most aquatic creatures have some kind of head shaped like this. I'm thinking of like turtles and fish and things like that. Perfect. And by making its head this way, I've locked myself out of really showing its teeth, I guess. But we'll see. Maybe I can put in the teeth like that. That would put us really in like the medieval painting style. And I'm just going to throw down some of the body, and then we'll come back, and when the head is dry, that'll let me paint in some more texture on the head and stuff like that. I'm trying to get rid of the shine. We're back in like season 1 where I'm like working with the lights hardcore. There we go. That's so much better. Nice. And let's see if we can fade it from this cool light green down through the rest of it. Perfect. And I almost want to go through and watch the Godzilla movies now. It's a pretty rare overlap of pop culture, I guess you could say, and then the things that I'm interested in, like weird spiritual archetypes and the way it relates to things like that. I don't know if I'm actually going to do it. I don't really have time to watch movies, but it would be kind of a cool project to like go through and just watch like the movies and comment on them symbolically. After I saw the movie in theaters, I was like, oh, this is why some people who do like online stuff comment about movies that are out right now. It's so convenient. It gives you like an endless stream of like things to talk about. I don't know if I differentiated this color enough, but let's see. And I think that part of what we're going to do here is lean into the nature of the paints. So I almost want to get him having like a segmented body, and that's what'll let us paint the colors coming down. Looks like the same color, but I know I loaded way more Viridian pigment in here, so I'm hoping it'll dry darker, but if not, we'll just come back and kind of fix it. And what I'm going to do is slowly add in a little bit of the purple, this darker ocean color that we got down here. Someone said, I've seen some people refer to these beasts as demons more than actual earthly creatures. Interesting view, I guess. I don't see it that way, to be honest with you. Yeah, the like deep depths of the ocean thing is something I haven't really poked into too hard. People always kind of pull this card of like, you know, we haven't even mapped the whole ocean yet. I don't know how I feel about like literal actual cryptids living deep in the ocean. I suppose it's possible. I mean, obviously I don't ever really rule like anything out ever, but I don't know. One text, so like when I used to be more into Western occult stuff, a lot of the stuff you get from there is more like explicitly from Judaism, like from like, you know, rabbinical texts and things like that. Obviously I don't roll with that stuff anymore, but it is interesting just to know what it says, especially if you're going into some of the archetypes. And some of them talk about the leviathan as like God's pet almost. Like it's this thing he made as like a pet that he like just enjoys watching and stuff like that. I suppose the 101 that we didn't really talk about. I don't know if I'm getting enough of a contrast on this. But we'll see. It's kind of a weird shape, obviously. I'm going to change the head shape, I think. But now I'm just going to come in. Let's just loosen this up a little bit. My plan initially was to do it kind of like rough style, and I thought that would lock me out of getting that weird, almost like Pokemon zone that a lot of the medieval paintings get into. That's what we're going to try and do right now. So loosen it up a little bit. Of course, by doing this way, I'm opening myself up to other problems, but we'll see. Perfect. Perfect. And we got to change the head shape for very obvious reasons. I got a G rating, so I can't say why, but clearly you can see why we need to change the head shape. And I think I'm going to go with the side profile with the teeth. Maybe it's like, you know, the ancient primitive artist in me, but something about the sharp teeth, you can't really beat that. So let's see if we can get these big teeth in here. I usually like to get some kind of a tongue in. Let's see. We'll come in here. Perfect. Perfect. Nice. The arms are also a weird thing. It's funny working as a modern, not like a modern artist, like a, you know, abstract painter, but as a modern painter with stuff like this, because of course your instinct is to say, oh, well, you know, how should I make the arms? Let's look at like a reference. But the closest reference you're going to get is a dinosaur. And if you ever look at dinosaurs' arms, they look stupid. They look so stupid. So it's like you can't even look at, you know, a T-Rex or something and base the arms on that because those already look really dumb. Perfect kind of example. You see this crisp stroke here and how these are like wet and gross? I want stuff like that. I want to get us into a very like painterly space. I could just lean into the sea serpent thing, but I don't really want to. I really want to give it like the arms. But maybe I should. I feel like the arms will make it look so much tougher. You know, if we get out here with like some legs that it has at least. Let's get this darker color going on. Perfect. And I guess we should talk about sort of the most basic aspect of the Leviathan. Yeah, this dark color is what we want. Maybe I'll even go over this in black. I don't know, let's see. This will be one of the more experimental episodes that we've done. But I think that coming out with the legs like this is a good call. Perfect. I'm just kind of sketching it out so we can see like what we want to do with it. Yeah, you know, I'm really torn on the arms, man. You know, can you close your eyes and imagine sort of like a sea serpent-y, like dragon-esque monster, but the arms always look dinky. You know what I mean? Not to use that word, but the arms always look really kind of lame, honestly. Let's see if we can make it work. So I figured I would kind of sketch this in and then maybe I'll come back. Like maybe the arm should be like this. I feel like even this looks kind of small. Obviously I'll make them like beefed up and give them like hands and stuff, and I'm just kind of like sketching it out right now. Something like that. We're gonna have to come around with the tail. Let's see. Cool. And I think what we're gonna do, I think part of the enjoyable aspect of doing the experimental ones live is just seeing how it plays out. So already what I'm thinking is to make this look and feel tougher. Toughness is a really good adjective to use because people don't normally think of it relating to painting, but it really does. And I think what we're going to have to do to balance out and get that kind of like tough feeling is come in with some black. We're going to need the black color, and that'll add and get rid of a lot of the... I just don't want it to be cute. I want it to be a little like creepy, honestly. Okay. We're doing pretty good here. Could be a lot worse. Arms, let's come in with them like this. And I think I'm gonna add, someone said it, I was also thinking it, like some wings coming out of the back. Cool. Let's do it this way. I think leaning into the kind of like primitive look and shape is going to be part of what's fruitful here. Perfect. Yeah, there we go. That was definitely a step in the right direction. Oh yeah, so the main place that I know Leviathan from in scripture is in the book of Job. And I think everyone really likes the book of Job, but I really like it a lot. Because for me, it's like the sort of the cut in between. I didn't prep this monologue, so no one be taking notes right now. This is like amateur theologian hour, as it always is here. But I gotta let this dry. I gotta stop poking around in here. That's why we're getting these weird gradients. But Job is kind of like the cut for me, right in between the worldview of Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, you know. Because you have Proverbs where it's like, yeah, things are like kind of fair, and if you're good and smart, you'll do pretty well, you know. And then you get Ecclesiastes where it's like, yeah, usually not though. Sometimes good people really doesn't work out for them. Sometimes bad people do really well. You don't really know how it's going to play out. So you get these two opposing worldviews, right? Not opposing, but two sort of opposite sides of the coin, I guess you would say. Perfect. And then Book of Job for me has always been kind of like a cut in between them. Because it's like, you obviously know the story of Job. But here's this guy, all this bad stuff happens, then all this good stuff happens, and God doesn't really explain why. So I feel like it's kind of like the mitigator between the worldview of those two other texts. So it's kind of what I've picked up over the years. Do I want to add the black in? Yeah, let's do it. Perfect. And in the book of Job, that's where I think of the leviathan coming into play. Okay, I'm pretty cool with how this looks right now. Because Job obviously asks God like what the deal is, and part of what he brings up as Job not even knowing what anything about anything is the leviathan. He asks him, you know, can you tame the leviathan? Can you, he even says this, there's this whole passage where he's like, can you put a hook through the nose of the leviathan? Can you bring it home to, you know, your woman or something like that? And he's like, you don't even know anything. There we go. Perfect. Perfect. I'm just going to grab a huge bottle of ink and kick this. Perfect. Kick this up a little bit right now. So I really got to keep the lights active. Perfect. Cool. Cool. I had the lighting perfectly set up for the white paper. Then for the cardboard, it's totally different. So let's just come in with the black right now. Perfect. Leviathan's also in Isaiah. But we'll get to all that. And yeah, maybe I can push this like cardboard texture up a little bit. Let's see. I'm probably gonna end up going over a lot of his body in black, is what I feel like is gonna happen. And yeah, there's something about the monster thing that I feel like I do want to unpack as I go on a little bit. Everyone can kind of relate to it in a weird way, but it's so otherworldly. It's not really like the cryptids. I thought the other reason why this would be appropriate is like it's kind of like the cryptids. Cryptids are kind of like monsters, but at the same time, it's sort of a totally different zone. It's almost like cryptids are less scary in a different way from monsters. And we need this to be way darker, literally like 10,000 times darker. So I'm just going to come in right here. Perfect. Nice. This is the kind of texture I was talking about. Perfect. Perfect. It's too bright. He's too bright. Normally I work with like the hyper blown out colors, right? Let's see what we can do if we come in here. Perfect. Great. And then also there's a weird sync up, right, with the dinosaurs and the old monsters too. There is a subset of, so if you're here, obviously you know if you're here, I really entertain it all. Really entertain any crazy idea, obviously. And as you may know, there's a subset of... Oh, I know what we're going to do. I just thought of how we're going to make this visually interesting. Perfect. I'm going to put some kind of like orb of light around his head. Because in the Job passage, God says... I don't know if he says explicitly or if it's implicit, but basically says Leviathan's not even evil. It's just part of my creation in a way that like you don't understand. So I'm going to put some kind of like orb of light around his head. I really just want to drag the dark over this thing. I'm kind of just going to do it. Let's just do it. Not like totally perfect. In love with how that was going. It was going okay, but I'm just going to drag this darkness over it. I feel like everything you're seeing right now is going to end up being like the base layer. And then we're going to paint over it primarily. That happens sometimes in painting. Almost ends up being like a sketch. That's kind of what's going to happen right now. And what I'm going to do also is come in here. Perfect. I'm going to come across a little bit. What I really want is a bigger brush. Perfect. Great. Here we go. Nice. Cool. So the light thing is just freaking killing me. I hate doing any technical stuff while we're doing the show. Next time that won't happen. All right, perfect. Okay, cool. So now we have a really dope backdrop. And I'm going to sort of adjust my plan of attack here based on how this looks right now. That's what it looks like. Perfect. So I'm going to come back over it, and instead of going so hard on like one, instead of like trying to do 3D painting, I think we're going to go over this. It looks pretty cool, actually. It looks pretty cool now. But I'm going to come in with a little bit more drawing, I think. Obviously, this is not what it's going to look like at the end. Kind of gotta let it dry for a second, though. We never have that problem on the show. Actually, let's just keep going. So now I'm thinking this looks kind of dope, but I'm just wondering, what I'm kind of fighting myself from doing is I feel like I should just come in with the white. I feel like if I just come in with white over this, not tracing it, but just do like a white drawing over it. I can get the tail coming up. I can put the scales in and everything. I know that'll look really sick. I mean, if I know it's going to look good, why would I not do that? So let's do it. Let's change gears a little bit. I think we're going to use this brush. It's not too big. It's not too small. Cool. Nice. If I put the white in, so like, let's just do it. It's. I know it's going to be tight. Let's just go for it. And that'll let me... You know, I use the word meta-creative a lot, but it's like one reason why I did the show is like to sort of go through the creative process with people, and you can kind of see what just happened right now. It's like a lot of times when you tackle a creative problem, your first instinct is like, oh, well, you know, it's the dark, it's the ocean, I'll make it dark, and then he's green, you know, I'll paint him in green, you know. But usually the real answer is something that's a little bit more lateral. It's something that kind of comes out of the process. We say that all the time. And I feel like coming over with the white is really going to be the answer here. Do I want to change much of the drawing though? Not really. I think I'm just going to go for it. Oh, perfect. I'm kind of wondering how sharp I should make it, but I'm also mostly just going intuitively. And you can see I was going to wait for it to dry, but getting that bleed is like really what you want. And I have my wrist getting in the paint right now, but I don't really care because if it smudges something or anything like that, it's not really the kind of picture where that's going to matter. I would like to get a tongue in here. Yeah, perfect. There we go. Perfect. Yeah, nice. Okay. What kind of eye do I want to use? This is going to really decide the style a lot. I'm going to come in with the long eye. The long eye gives you a little bit of a creepy flavor. But I might come back over that with the color, so don't hold me to that too much. I'm going to make the neck a little fat. You don't want the neck to be too thin. And perfect. We're going to come up here. I don't know. I like to kind of give him a little bit of a bicep when I draw stuff like this sometimes, because just, you know, I feel like it's better to err on the side of caution, because what you really don't want is them to look wimpy. If you make a dragon and you give it like really skinny arms and legs, it just looks like ridiculous, dude. And I'm going a little bit, I always talk about the sort of 1000 AD pre-medieval vibe. It's kind of what I'm going for. Like here with this hand, I'm just throwing in like the spikes on the hand. Sometimes I actually imagine I'm an artist from like some village in Italy that I've never seen, you know, all the reptilian animals and all that stuff that I've personally have seen. So maybe you have no idea how the claw is like really attached to an animal or something, you know. That's what gives a lot of the 1000 AD and like 600 AD and stuff art its charm. It's like really how the artist is imagining it, which is such a rare thing. Perfect. Nice. And there's a lot more wet over here, so you can see it's like bleeding out, but we're just going to roll with it. I have two options right now. I can start to fade the white into a different color. That's going to give it a lot of a different character, but let's do that. Lately on the show, if I have, you know, the decision between doing something that makes it more interesting or playing it safe, I feel like we should go with something that makes it more interesting. So I'm going to throw down this. I might have made it too dark, but we'll see. Great. This will also let us put in the spikes and everything. The legs, and I'm going to come up here. When you start getting overlapping lines like this, it gives it a little bit more of a modern illustrational feel, but it's fine. Come in like that. Perfect. And we'll come in here. The other thing that'll be cool is if I want, again, it is kind of like a modern illustrational thing in the sense that I'm like, oh, of course someone would do that. But I could put in other stuff for scale. I could put in like a tiny whale or something that would then imply, you know, how big it is. Sometimes when I do these creatures, if I do the claw and it doesn't line up, I kind of just roll with it. But like I said, I'm going for that sort of like medieval vibe. It doesn't really read as a mistake in my opinion. And I guess that's because it's not, you know, I'm not aiming for, you know, a drawing someone could then like 3D model into a video game. I'm going for more like a drawing of a creature someone might find in some, you know, in some abandoned, you know, sacred site or something. Obviously a Christian site, of course. Perfect. I always get Job and Jonah mixed up. I actually almost said, you know, we could put like a little figure inside the Leviathan. But that's Job. It's not Jonah. Totally different. Perfect. Cool. I kind of want to put the tail poking up here. I'm just going to do it. Perfect. But yes, I was saying, there are some people, as you guys probably know, who, you know, they don't go fully into dinosaurs are fake, but they are, like, the Bible's literally real, so they have to land in this space of, like, so people lived alongside dinosaurs and stuff, and there are people who think the Leviathan is, like, a... Cool. I just did that. I'm just going to throw in the spikes on the back. Gotta throw in the spikes. Maybe that's a little bit too dinosaur-y, but this is kind of the feeling it out episode anyway, so I'm just kind of just going to see what happens. I wanted to do just one take, just like sort of emptying what's in my brain within this archetype, and then it might be interesting to compare, you know, if we go in and like dive into what the Leviathan is, and I really want to see what the church fathers say about the Leviathan and things like that, and then we'll come back and see how it differs at the end. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll be the same. Maybe it will though. But yeah, like I was saying, there are some people who think the Leviathan is like a record of like humans living along dinosaurs. I don't really vibe on that personally. I feel like I gotta take it either way. I gotta either lean in and say dinosaurs are real and scientists are right about them, or I have to say, yeah, they're probably not real because they're not in the Bible. I really don't know if I can land in that weird middle zone. I don't know what other people think about that, but I can't land in the middle zone. I can't say, well, yeah, you know, scientists are right about everything with dinosaurs, but it was like thousands of years after they said it was. I don't know. It's hard for me to land there. Maybe that's just me. My instinct is to... We need another color. I was going to grab red, but I feel like red is going to really upset the vibe here. I'm really going for more of a watery situation, right? Should we get some kind of electric blue going on? I guess we should. We never really poke into that realm. Let's do that. We're going to use a color I never use. Oh, damn, it's the same. I was going to say I never use this primary blue. But looking at the primary blue, it says CMYK cyan. So it's actually the same thing as the cyan blue. That's probably why I never use it. But we're going to use it right now. I'm just going to use the cyan then, I guess. Perfect. I wish I could drop a poll. I know on Twitch people do like fancy stuff while they're streaming, like drop a poll. But I wonder if people would admit to thinking dinosaurs are real or fake in the chat. Okay, I'm going to throw in these kind of electric blue eyes, I guess. I was going to make the eyes like yellow or orange or something, but I'm just feeling like it'll probably upset the color scheme too much. Maybe I'll regret that. Yeah, I kind of already regret it. Let's go with a bright color. Let's do something bolder. Should I go with red? Let's go through the options together. Red, like the cadmium scarlet we always use. I feel like that's going to upset the color scheme. Orange is tempting. Orange feels like the most tempting. Yellow, maybe. We can do a little artistic maneuver here. We talk about color schemes sometimes, but we can see what the split complement is of these colors. What I mean by that is, for example, so we have the blue in the background. It's like a purple blue. And then we have the blue green. So what's in between those two colors on the color wheel? Oh, dude, I have a color wheel over here somewhere. Perfect. I got it somewhere. I'm not gonna. Oh, it's right here. Perfect. So what we can do is, this is awesome. Nice. Cool. Okay. So a split complement. This is a pretty weird color wheel, but it kind of works, and it's also in Japanese, so it really fits the general aesthetic. So we got blue purple and we got blue green, which means that in between those colors is blue. And then to get a split complement, what you do is you find the middle between the two colors you're using that are next to each other almost, separated by one color, and you go opposite. So if we have blue green, green blue, the middle is blue. So opposite of that is orange. So if we dropped orange in here, that'll be a split complement color scheme. I say we do it. I'm tempted between orange and yellow. Yellow imparts kind of like a sickly quality though, especially if we do it for the eyes. So let's just go with orange. Someone said dinosaurs are just dragons. Yeah, I think that's kind of like the safest angle. I don't mean safest like you're playing it safe. I just mean it seems like one of the ways it stacks up the most. In my previous spiritual life and research and stuff, I did look a lot into dragons. And one of the weirdest things I found was the earliest like Chinese dragons and the earliest like East Asian dragons I could find. Some of the earliest Chinese ones that I found were like part pig. I don't know if they're technically dragons then. I suspected it could be modern scholars coming along and saying like, oh, these are dragons, but they're really another creature. But I feel like if I remember correctly, they're carved from jade and they're circular, and I think the head is a pig. Just gonna try and throw in this. Perfect. Now we need the sharp ending for the, there we go, nice. Cool, that looks pretty good actually. The eye kind of bled out a little bit over here. It's pretty cool. We're almost in a little bit of like an Asian drawing space. Like I got some writing over here that would look pretty tight, but I don't know. Sometimes I feel like writing with the illustration is a cop out. Sometimes it's not. Oh, I said I was going to drop in a little bit of a faux halo also. Not a halo. It's not an angel, obviously, but I think because of God speaks of it as one of his creatures, it could be kind of cool to just drop in. Perfect. Something like that. And now we're fully in like primitive art mode with the dots, but I thought it would be okay. Nice, looks really tight actually. And let's see, where else are we taking this? We're not landing the plane yet, but we do want to start thinking about. It's looking cool. We're still in, like, in case you want to know what's going on in my mind, like the meta-creative space. It's cool, like, it's like, yeah, this is cool, but it's not like a picture yet. We're not like in the mode where it's like, boom, there it is. That's the picture. Cool. So I'm trying to think what would like punch us up into there. Could add something behind him. You know, maybe I could get the blue out. I'm thinking of ultramarine blue right now. We could throw in a little bit of the blue behind him. It's tough because it's supposed to be deep, deep down in the water, you know? So how do we represent that really visually? There's nothing down there. It's just dark, right? I mean, I'm going to come in here. I really never use this color. I'm thinking that it's such a dark blue. Maybe it'll work for I don't know if we've ever used this color on the show. It's ultramarine blue. It's like a really, really, really deep reddish blue. A normal person wouldn't see this and think of it as a reddish blue, but for painting purposes, it is actually. It's called ultramarine because ultra means far, and marine means the ocean, obviously, and they used to get it as crushed up lapis lazuli from Afghanistan. So they called it ultramarine because it came from far over the ocean. And obviously it was super expensive, right? I suspect that's part of why the blue was used for Virgin Mary's cloak so often, just because people would know it was like hyper expensive. I can't back that up with any empirical research though. And then I think it was in the 1800s, France had this competition for who, or maybe it was just all over Europe. Maybe it wasn't just in France. Yeah, it must have been all over Europe. But they had a competition when like chemistry was really popping off, just in general. You know that time when chemistry was popping off, for who could synthesize the lapis lazuli style pigment, because it would save them like a crazy amount of money. Yeah, it looks pretty good. It's pretty cool actually. And some French guy won the contest. So now if you go to the art store, they have ultramarine, but they also have French ultramarine. And that was the ultramarine that he synthesized. It's cheaper than the real ultramarine. Of course, this is not lapis lazuli, so everything I'm saying doesn't necessarily apply. And then you know what I'm going to do? I'm feeling like we also just need a little bit more dynamism in terms of the color flow. So I'm just going to add some white. When you add white to ultramarine, you do get a very oceany color, but it's a very cold oceany color. You can see over here. The white makes things so cold. Really, that's the hardest part of painting in like this time period. I would imagine I haven't painted in other time periods. But the white makes things so cold, and the blues are already so cold, so you really just get this icy, icy, icy color. It works for here a little bit. Works for here a little bit. So I'm going to make this pretty dark. Still with the white though. And I'm going to add the ring. I'm going to add the ring around the circle we just painted. Again, maybe I'll regret it, but perfect. Yeah, that looks really good. Perfect. Huh. Kind of feeling this right now, but I just feel like we need, like, I'm looking at it and I'm like, where's the, you know, we just gotta get the, maybe the scales. Maybe we come in with a little bit of the lemon yellow in the scales. We're officially in like sketchy painting mode, like sketching painting mode, which is kind of the most interesting space to be in. I feel like what's going to happen is that we'll probably keep going. And when I run out of things, little things I think we should do or change, maybe I'll just do something crazy, because I'm not really married to how this is turning out, honestly. I mean, I think it looks dope, but like I'm not going to, you know, sell it to a museum afterwards. So if we decide to do anything crazy, we can come in here with the scales. And I'm not going to dip the brush back in the pigment. We'll see, maybe it'll fade a little bit. I feel pretty good about the scales. Maybe we could have done something more interesting, but I think that was kind of a good call. Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, looks pretty good. The yellow is a little bit more intense than I thought it would be. That's cool. I might write Leviathan on the side. The thing about writing that's like kind of a cheat, honestly, the reason why I feel like it's cheating is it really adds like a focal point for the eye. You see a lot of those, you see a lot of it in Asian painting where they write something off on the side. And it's funny because sometimes the writing, you feel like when you're really digging into it visually, you feel like it's distracting. But when you're painting a picture and you can drop some writing in, you're like, oh, this is a little bit of a hack. It actually makes it a little bit tighter. Let's add some scales in, and then we'll see what the move is. Cool. Okay. Do I want to add in the scales? Let's just do it. It's going to take us a little bit deeper into the illustrative zone, but I think it works. Yeah, nice. like disappearing scales in and out actually looks really good. But I still just feel like we need something. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the magenta. Every time remember when that was like a theme for like 6 episodes, we get to the end and I'd be like, oh my god, what does it need? It just would need magenta. Okay, we're making good decisions, but you know, if you're making art or being creative in any way, there's a big difference between really good little decisions that stack up and then big good decisions. And we're making good little decisions, but I'm kind of just like, where's the, what do you need though? What is it though? We don't know. We don't know what we need. I'm kind of feeling like if I just throw in a little bit of a wash of like magenta kicking up from the bottom, I feel like that would look really sick. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. Underwater volcanoes in the deep ocean might work, someone said. Can you do a tunnel of light from above, or is it too late? Yeah, that would be kind of cool, actually. Yeah. Light from above. Okay, I know what we're going to do. I'm going to throw a little bit of like a magenta fade up from the bottom. Maybe we'll get a little bit of like a light blue, kind of like hint of light coming from above. And then we'll write Leviathan. That might be the whole tale. That might be the whole tale that we're working with right now. I have no idea what it's like watching the show, obviously, but I feel like it's more interesting when I don't know what's going to happen. Ideally, there's going to be a balance between shows where I 100% know what's happening and shows where I don't know what's happening, but I've just been kind of leaning into the chaos, honestly. Part of the whole reason why I started this was so we could go through the creative process together. And if I already know what's going to happen, that's not happening. Interesting. So, actually, speaking of not knowing what's going to happen, I'm throwing down this magenta paint, but it just looks like black because I'm putting it over black. That's a little bit of a curveball because I don't want to put white in it. We haven't talked about the physical limitations of the paint for quite some time. But if I add white, then it's going to chalk up the color. That's really what white does. It makes things chalky. And I really don't want that. I really want the deep, dark magenta color in the bottom. I can almost see it, but it's like too black. So that gives me an interesting issue here now. I have a few other magentas here, but I really don't know how they handle, honestly. I have no idea. So I'm kind of playing a dangerous game right now. This one looks pretty good. I guess we're going to see. By how they handle, what I mean is that I have no idea how opaque or transparent they are. So let's see right now. Damn, it's almost like hot pink. That's insane. But this is already kind of wet, so let's see. Actually, it's literally exactly the color I wanted. Wow, perfect. I need it to be way more loose. Way more loose. There we go, perfect. I almost want to come back with the ink, but I'm not going to do that. I almost want to just do it over the whole thing. I'm really torn about how to play this one. Let's just do it. Perfect. Nice. Okay. It's actually pretty awesome. I don't want it coming up all the way though, so I'm going to stop it at a certain point. And then to balance with where I'm trying to go with it, I'm going to throw in a little bit of this blue over here. Perfect. Perfect. You can imagine painting like this when you're almost in like sketching painting mode can give you a lot of good ideas. Even right now, this like slate purple with the black and magenta, it's a really dope color scheme actually. I feel like I should do one more gradiated layer reaching up, right? It's kind of a dope fade. We're going to lose a lot of the charm of the really thin color. I feel like this is going to be too opaque. Oh, it's not. It's not at all. It's actually not opaque enough. Cool. It's kind of like dusty plum color. You almost can't even tell what I'm doing, but it's worth getting those kind of like subtle changes in. Nice. Nice. Yeah, this looks pretty solid right now. Cool. And then let's see. I don't know. I'm going to try and get in this. We talked about it. A little bit of like a ray of light kind of thing going on. But I don't know what color I should make it. The problem is, let's see, I'm just straight up mixing colors with the brush. I got this like kind of, I'm really scared to throw this color down because I don't know if it's the right color. I don't know if it's the right color. Let's try it. Oh shit. That's okay. See, I could get away with like wiping it away and having like a little bit of a ghost of it there. But I really want to do something confident. I want to do something confident and powerful. Is this the right color? I don't know. It's so gray. It's not. It's not. Let's get the right color. We came this far. We gotta make the right move. But I think I know what I'm gonna do right now. I'm gonna throw down. Okay, I need the lemon yellow. Perfect. See, this color would be perfect. Again, I guess this is partially like physical limitations of the materials episode. This yellow would be perfect, but the problem is that it's 100% transparent. Lemon yellow is like the most transparent color. So if we're going to use it, we have to add another color to it. I'm going to grab some of this white and grab the yellow over here. Let's just go for it. Cool. And I'm going to throw down, yeah, like a ray of light kind of thing coming in from the top. Might upset the balance a little bit, but I think it'll be cool. Oh, I'm going to balance it out with the orange a little bit. This orange is dried up, so I have to dig right in here. Perfect. So I get this light yellow orange. Perfect. It's kind of a risky move. Part of me thinks maybe I should, now that I'm looking at this orange color, it's going to take all the I'm torn because it'll kind of grab a lot of attention, but also it'll look really cool. It's either going to be this color or like a light blue. I really can't tell what the move is. To come in with this or to come in with the light blue. Let's be bold. Let's go in with this. I feel like the light blue is a safer bet, but I'd kind of rather do this instead. Perfect. It's literally perfect. Fuck. It's okay. Perfect. Nice. I lost my G rating because I said the F word. Sorry if you're watching with your kids. If you're watching with your kids, you shouldn't say words like that because then you can't stop and you say them accidentally and then you look uneducated. Learn from my mistakes. Anyway, though, I think that looks really awesome, actually. I almost want to make the bottom a little bit darker now, but actually it looks perfect. Haha! Okay. Nice. I'm extremely pleased with how this turned out because there was a minute there where I wasn't sure how this was going to turn out, but now I feel like this is looking really sick. Okay. We're not going to add other stuff because we have the nice kind of like, this almost looks like it would be like a tiny little illustration, like in an illuminated manuscript or something. Not the style necessarily, but the composition. So we're not going to start putting in other little things. I'm actually going to write Leviathan over here. Do I want to write it up there? Yeah, I'm going to write it up here. And the color I write it in is kind of a big call because I don't want to upset the balance of the painting and everything. I could do it in orange. Orange feels like the right color. White. If I go with white and I write it in a little square, I'm going to write it in a square. Then it's almost like you get the Asian stamp effect, like the stamp on the painting. It's like, because it calls so much attention to itself, it's almost like a, it's a really weird metaphor, but how I think of it actually, it's like a mole on a really beautiful girl's face. It's like because it sings out so loudly from the rest of everything, it almost fits in because of that. So if I go with the white, that's the effect that I'm going to get. It's going to be like, bing! If I go with the orange or something, then it's more subtle. Then you have like the red Asian stamp effect. Let's go with the white, man. Let's go with the white. Let's just let's bite off the whole apple. Let's just do it. Cool. This actually looks pretty solid. It looks really dope. I didn't one episode we're gonna lean in and we're gonna full on try and paint medieval style monster. I don't want to say copped out because it looks really tight, in my opinion. But I did go putting it in the drawing situation was like a little bit more of a safe bet. But you know, if you're painting in like the scales and painting it in, you know, you're locked into that other style. Anyway, I'm probably not explaining it well because I want to just write this in right now. So, leviathan, Leviathan. So how am I going to fit that? It's going to be Levia and then THAN on the bottom. And I want to write it in such a way that it doesn't immediately call out to itself as writing. If you get the really tight writing all together, perfect. Kind of like that. V is a hard letter to... I normally never do V's like this, but I'm going to try it anyway. And then the A, I'm going to do A's in a way that I don't normally do it either. I never go with the box A. But I think for this situation it's appropriate. Looks alright. I'm going to balance it out with one of these. Perfect. The double stroke. And then THAN. I was going to worry about spacing it, but I really like the tightness. So I'm actually not going to worry about it. Obviously, the THAN is not going to go all the way over, but we can just deal with that when we have to. Perfect. One with the 3 crossbars. Why not? THA. Maybe it will go all the way over. And I got 2 different kind of ends I can deploy here. I never go with the one that comes over, down, over, but that kind of would be perfect. And I'm not going to do it. Just because I think if I go with this kind of end, then I can get the double bar in. And that looks sick. Nice. And I got this little space right here. I kind of want to fill in the space underneath the T, so I'm going to take a risk right now. And I'm going to put in... I don't want to jinx it, but this brush is really working with me really well right now. So I'm going to put in a little lightning bolt. Perfect. Huh. Nice. And actually, to balance out the lightning bolt, I'm going to do this too. Could have put a dot over the eye, but I didn't. 2, 3. Perfect. Cool. Cool. I'm looking at the screen, so I'm seeing the same thing you are. That was really fun. I think we're going to call it on that. But let's see. I'm going to move some stuff around so we can actually look at it really quick. Alright. Move some lights around so we can actually see what's going on here. Nice. Well, I don't think I could say that's unsuccessful. It looks pretty solid. I think we're good. Man, I'm loving working on the cardboard. I almost feel like I'm cheating, honestly. I feel like I'm almost cheating just working on the cardboard all the time. Yeah, it's still too shiny. Perfect. Well, I'm definitely going to call it there. Solid. So yeah, something like this, I would call this, I mean, I said it before, but almost like painting, sketching, where, you know, I'm obviously not landing in the space of like, oh, now this is a totally finished painting. But like if I was working around with the subject a lot, like this is something I would do maybe a few times just to feel it out and see what vibes and what doesn't and how X works with Y and things like that. Talk about it probably every episode now, but you know, certain things that happen like in this stage, you can then pick those up and port them over to like the finished product. Like if I was going hard on, you know, a painting I wanted to be like, oh my god, this has to be perfect, I would never like take the risk and try like the dry brush here, for example. But obviously it looks dope, so I would take that, and now if I'm doing a finished one later, I would like definitely port that over. Especially like how the dry brush looks with the super tight writing. It's really dope. Otherwise, we don't need to recap at all or anything. You were just here. I say it at the end of every episode, but I feel like we need to recap, but you were just here. Yeah, I wanted to use this just like as a test to see where we'd start with like just the idea of a monster. It definitely looks dope, but this is also definitely like what I would expect myself to do. You know, if you asked me like at the start like what it might end up looking like, I feel like I would basically take it here. So I don't know how we're going to go deeper into it. I think maybe in the next episode or at some point. I think what we'll do is we'll take a medieval image of a dragon that looks really tight, or some manuscript image of the leviathan or something like that. We're trying to keep it leviathan zone, not dragon zone necessarily. And then maybe we'll copy it, or draw from it, or see what the deal is. Or maybe next week we'll go into like the scripture and see what it says and like try and parse out the visuals from there. But I think it'll be an interesting way to keep going further into like experimenting, because yeah, like I was saying at the beginning, sometimes the medieval Western painterly animals do have a very like Pokemon or doofy feeling. So we'll see if we can punch through that and escalate the style a little bit. But for now, it's that time. It's 8:20. Whole over an hour passed, but it felt like 5 minutes. That's kind of what happens when you're doing the art situation. So thanks for coming through. I got a lot of dope stuff coming out. I have been spending a lot more time working on the studio stuff, so it's going to be sick. Cryptid prints, the vibe packs. If you want them, hit me up. I'm going to print the next run. If you have no idea what this is, it's on my Twitter. Go check it out. But we made a little fine art print situation. This one's bent because there's something wrong with it. Normally they're not bent, obviously, just to be clear. But I got a lot of dope stuff coming out, so yeah, man. Thanks for coming through. Thanks for hanging out with me on this Tuesday evening. And now you know the deal. We're going to go back to the battle, the spiritual warfare we have all been thrust into. This is a nice oasis, but now we return to our spiritual progress. That's what I'm going to do also. I'm going to go take care of my wife and dog. So I'll catch you guys later on the internet, where we all hang out together. Thanks for coming by.